statements or beliefs expressed on the following program by the host, guests, or callers are not necessarily the opinions of FantasyXS.com, Media Group Inc. ownership, management, sponsors, or website. We unleash the Wolf Pack as we get the latest in the NFL and the Miami Dolphins with our KSDT CPA Pro Football Report with NFL Network insider Cameron Wolfe. KSDT is one of South Florida's largest and one of the country's fastest growing accounting firms. KSDT CPA is a full-service firm that also excels in crypto. Visit them at ksdtcpa.com or call 305-670-3370. Here's NFL insider Cameron Wolfe.
All right, there he is, locked and loaded and ready to go here on a beautiful Sunday. And beautiful news, too. We woke up to Cam. That David Davis, the extremities were moving yesterday. He was talking, but he was cleared, left the hospital. So we open up Sunday with blessings, I will say. That's what I will say.
Yeah, that's great news. Great news. It seems like we've had more of these in this preseason for whatever reason, or maybe we're paying more attention to them after DeMar's situation last year. But it's always scary when you see a guy face down on the field, and for him to be good and being released from the hospital, being able to travel home today, I think that's all best case scenario for Daywood. And so it's sort of a reminder that football is the game we love, but it's still very physical. And so we did get some blessings that he's okay. And,
nothing's changed, my brother, from Darryl Stingley.
Yep.
To the Minnesota Viking young man that I'm forgetting his name, about, 15 years ago, 12 years ago, heat exhaustion and
we're
watching high schoolers here recently. We're watching Bronny James. Whether there's a health issue already or it's not necessarily a healthy game for the human body. You know what I mean? I know Doug Whaley did not end up becoming popular in NFL circles when he was with Buffalo, and said, the NFL body wasn't built for the NFL. The body wasn't built for the NFL. And, I'm sure people around the league were like, hey, quiet down there, buddy. Don't say that kind of, don't tell them about reality.
Right.
Your arm's not made to throw 102 miles an hour, bro.
Yep.
And whether you like it or not, Otani or whoever the hell you are, you're going to blow out your arm eventually. Because why? Because it's not made to do that kind of shit. We saw the Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
They were playing with Kachuk was playing with a broken sternum.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
What?
Yep.
What? I mean, no, I'm sorry, it was a collarbone. And you scored.
Right.
Like, you're not supposed to do this kind of stuff. And that's why these, the real freaks are, Cam, the guys that stay healthy.
Yep.
Those are the real freaks, dude. It's normal to break down. You know what I mean? And by the way, with the David Davis thing was a dirty shot, too, on top of everything. So
you're absolutely right. It's been this way for a long time. But as we know more about, the impact of hits and everything, I think it hits us maybe a little harder than it did 20 years ago. I think we used to have and trust me, I loved it just like every fan, but we used to have the jacked up segments where it's literally you're seeing a dude get jacked up and you're smiling and laughing at a dude who may be unconscious, right? I don't think that's acceptable nowadays. You realize that this is serious, somebody's health, and not just our own gladiator entertainment. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that's changed us, maybe as a society, realizing, hey, this is serious stuff. But yeah, good news for Daywood. And then a few hours later, or a couple hours later, the Dolphins got good news, and Zach Sieler extended. And so two elements of news today.
Before I go into Sieler, I've said this on the show. I have been doing this for 30 years. I've said this for over 20 years. The days of the gladiator really haven't changed. The only difference is that back in the day, they stood there in the Coliseum watching the gladiator die. Now
did I lose you? Look like you're frozen. Is that just me? It looks frozen on my
You. No, it's not you. No. So let's hopefully Zach. I mean, hopefully, Sean will be able to kind of put this thing together.
Yeah.
No, but hopefully, when we look at this whole situation, what hasn't changed is that back in the Roman days, they watched the gladiators die right there in the Colosseum.
Right.
Where the difference is now, the gladiators die behind the scenes with their family members, with all kinds of dementia, and hip problems, knee problems.
Yep.
Nobody gives a shit about Earl Campbell, who can't walk anymore and has got to be on a wheelchair. Nobody cares about Mike Webster, who's got to crazy glue his knee skin to create skin because he doesn't have any skin and living under a bridge or whatever. And so that's the sad part, you know what I mean? And
Right.
and video has changed all of that too, because now we are physically seeing this stuff because video is everywhere now, which is something that didn't exist years ago. All right, so let's get to Zach Sieler. It's good news, bad news, maybe, possibly. We got to first congratulate Zach Sieler. Hell of a deal. He got a 3-year extension. Could be worth up to $38.5 million.
So let me correct you there, just because I've heard this a little bit out here. It'll be up to 35.7 with
35.7
with the Senate. So that's the new money, the new extension money. So the actual deal is 3 years, 30.75. With the incentives, he can get up to 35.7. I think there was a little bit of the up to. There are some liberties there on maybe the agent side of things.
The agent side probably gave it. Okay. All right. So 35.7, 38.6.
But still, he's getting over $10 million a year, $20 million guaranteed, a raise this year, a big signing bonus, a big reward for a guy that you remember less than 4 years ago got claimed off of waivers. The Ravens that essentially said, hey, you're not one of our best 53 guys. And now the Dolphins are saying you're probably one of our best 7 or 8 guys, which is quite a jump for Zach Sieler and well deserving. So I know we've made jokes early in his tenure, but I don't think he's going to be living in a trailer hut anymore.
Maybe he just upgrades the trailer now.
Yeah, maybe you have amazing. Maybe you have amazing trailer, right? $1 million spot. No.
Maybe he's the guy that's frugal and just kind of as Barry Sanders, Zach Thomas.
You live below your means.
Barry was notorious because it was like one of those things. It was notorious that Barry was like he didn't spend money. He drove a regular car, had regular clothes. He didn't. Hey, who's like that? Kirk Cousins.
Yep.
Kind of learned Kirk Cousins and the wife. They're not like they're like we get what we need. We don't need to go out and
stop at Target and Ross, get clothes. Like Kirk Cousins making $30 million a year buying $13 shirts on clearance at Ross. Hey, but that's how rich folks stay rich.
Yeah, once they get the money, they become cheap. Yeah, no, it's
and they get stuff given to them too, right? That's the biggest key to being rich. Taking all the free items you can get.
Yes, that is true. So congratulations to Zach Sieler. Now the question is, you would figure that the Zach Sieler contract would come after the Christian Wilkins contract,
right?
And so you have to start to wonder with the whole Jonathan Taylor stuff. Because, see, I am of the school that Chris Grier is not giving up a first or a second. But if you want him to do that, you're going to have to take some salary in order to do that, right? I don't even think he'll talk even first. He'd rather tell you, here, let's do Christian Wilkins, I bet, straight up for Jonathan Taylor. Let's do that. But I think if you're going to get a second from him, you're going to have to take Agba, or you're going to have to take Cedric and something else or something. He's not just going to give you a second and then bring on Jonathan Taylor and take on salary. That he can't. He has to pay a whole bunch of people. So I don't believe what some people are saying out there about that. Maybe you think that also. I think that if he's going to give up a second, they're taking something with that second. They have to alleviate salary load in order to take on salary load. That's just the way the life goes. So now that you've signed Sieler, I'm wondering, are you now saying, you know what, we got to stand pat, ride with Christian for the rest of the year? He'll be motivated on his own anyway. Maybe he'll go get those sacks, and then we can then tag him or sign him, or the open market, we can actually trade him somewhere and get something for him, but he can get his money because he'll be motivated to have a great year, because he has to have a great year. He has to put away whatever bitterness if he doesn't get a deal. Or is he going to be part of a deal? Or is the whole Jonathan Taylor thing now in play because you're not giving away the Wilkins money this year?
Right.
So how do you view the domino effect of signing right now Zach Sieler over Christian Wilkins with the Jonathan Taylor mess also hanging above? How do you decipher all of this?
Yeah, so I would separate it. I would separate it first of all. On the Jonathan Taylor stuff, I reported this, but they're interested. They like the player. He would certainly help them, but it's up to a certain price. And so you're right. I do not anticipate the Dolphins giving a first round pick. I do not anticipate them giving a conditional first round pick. That the second can turn into a first. None of that. I'm not even sure if they would, go as far as a second. We'll see what all this.
Don't you agree with me that I think if they go second, it's because you're taking Agba?
Right. There's obviously different packages, scenarios.
Equity pay. So you don't need Wilkins because you have DeForest Buckner. So you have your defensive tackle. So you don't need him. But actually, you do need Agba. You do need Cedric Wilson. You could use those. So I think that's the only way you can pry a second from him is if you offload salary. Don't you agree with me on that part? Like, I don't think they want to give a first or a second, but if you want a second from him, Chris Grier fleeced Houston. He fleeced San Francisco.
Yep.
He fleeced Belichick. He gave him a receiver for a 6th-round pick, and the guy ended up cutting him, and then he re-signed him and put him on the practice squad again. He wins these deals now. I think people are still thinking that this is Tannenbaum. That's going to just – you can have a pick, and you can have a pick, and you can have salary, and you can have signing bonuses. That's not how this guy works. This guy's a dog, bro. Just look at his history.
Right.
He gets the best end of all these deals. He's not just going to give you a first or a second and then go pay Jonathan Taylor. Bro, that's bullshit. That's not the way he works. So that's why I don't understand why people think he's just going to be Chris Kringle right now.
So what's going to be interesting to me for the situation is like the Colts have imposed this, I guess, this informal Tuesday deadline for a trade. It's not an actual deadline because you can trade a guy anytime up until the actual trade deadline, which is end of October, early November usually. But they want to have their roster set.
They want to end
in cut down day. Yes, in cut down day, we have a decision. Is Jonathan Taylor going to be a Colt or not? What's going to be intriguing is obviously they had a valuation for Jonathan Taylor. They felt like he was worth a first-round pick, and they are not going to get that. What is going to be interesting is what is their willingness to accept and how far under their initial asking price are they willing to accept? Because they can certainly, and they've postured this way, say, hey, no, we're not trading Jonathan Taylor. Pull what the Portland Trail Blazers are essentially doing with Dame Lillard and said, we don't like the offers, and we're going to keep him. And, either he doesn't show up or he shows up, doesn't matter. We got him under contract, right? Or or have we already gone too far? The Jonathan Taylor camp think that they have. They think there's no way really to come back. But do the Colts agree to say, hey, we're going to posture all we want, but at the end of the day, we're going to take our best deal before the Tuesday deal and make it work? And so that's something I don't know. I don't know what the Colts need or desire or push to do a deal, because to me that's where we are. I don't know that the Dolphins are going to all of a sudden up their offer much more than what it is at this point. So I think that right now we're at a standoff, and it's really in the Colts' hands more than it is in the Dolphins' hands. I don't think the Dolphins are going to outstretch or get super aggressive beyond what they present it. So that to me is where we are with Jonathan Taylor. I think we'll probably know more Monday or Tuesday when that time
Would you agree that anybody that's saying they're offering a second rounder right now, those are all bogus reports?
I don't know. I haven't heard a second round pick being offered. So I can't say that.
I can tell you, okay, from what I know, it's bogus. There ain't no first or second rounder on the table. Third or fourth, like Jalen Ramsey, low hanging fruit. Oh baby,
right.
Let's go. Sweet spot. Come on, bring it. That's Chris Grier.
Right.
Bring it. Yeah. Let me get you on a 2-year contract, young man.
Yep. Because the other thing you got to remember is you're still going to have to pay Jonathan Taylor too.
Exactly.
So you're paying him, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, 15. I don't know what the number ends up being.
And you got to pay the Jalens, and you got to pay Holland, and
so you're right. And that's why I think you can start to see things connected, right? Like I think they're separate. The Sieler, the Jonathan Taylor, Christian Wilkins. I don't know if but the way they're connected is
the only way they're connected is
that's what I'm going to say. The reason they're connected is 2024. Your money starts getting very tight. They're already way over the cap. And yes, you can do a lot of stuff to manipulate the cap. You can get rid of certain players, but they're significantly over the cap to the point where you have to start making choices on core players. And so you start planning for the future and you give Zach Sieler a contract that's going to move his cap hit up. Maybe that takes a little bit less away that you can do for Guy X or Christian or a Jonathan Taylor. And so maybe it's, previously we thought we could do Jonathan Taylor and Christian Wilkins. Now maybe we have to choose a long-term extension for Jonathan Taylor or Christian Wilkins, or we have to trade one of these dudes that we have on a big contract, whether it be an Agba or a Howard or a Ramsey even, like these are things that you have to start making decisions on. So I think that's where this comes into play. I do think that you would have liked to see a Christian Wilkins extension before the season. There's no sugarcoating that. He's a core player for the team. And it looks like as of now, we're going to move into the season with nothing done. Maybe something changes. It's not final, but right now it looks like Christian Wilkins is due $10.7 million on the final year of his deal, and he may be set to go into week 1 playing out that contract.
Maybe this ends up being one of these kind of deals too, Dolphin Nation. And you tell me, Cam, if this is something that it might be a little uncomfortable, but they might have reached a point where they want Quinn Williams type money, and they're saying, well, you don't get those sack numbers. Okay. So this season, Christian Wilkins goes out there and proves he can get the sack numbers. And then all of a sudden, because I actually think his sack numbers are going to go up. You know why? They didn't have a secondary last year. And we've had this conversation. And the ends didn't do their job last year. They didn't get the sacks. Now, you got the secondary. You got the defensive mind. Your ends are healthy. Now, all of a sudden, I think Christian Wilkins' sack numbers are automatically going to go up, and maybe he can now take it to that 7.5, 8.5, 9.5 range that then people want to see.
Yeah.
So this year's
Angio and the scheme will help him too.
Right. So maybe this year he goes out and proves it, and then Miami says, "Okay, here's the money for proving it that you can get the sack numbers in this system," and maybe that's where they're at an impasse at this point because they feel he's at this point and they feel that he's just slightly under, but he doesn't want to take that money.
Right.
And so we're at an impasse, but it's an impasse that maybe can be solved because honestly, they have a case. You haven't proven the sack numbers. And then they say, well, it's this, and this. Okay, if we do this, maybe we'll get the money. If not from Miami, somebody else is going to end up paying. So
yeah, absolutely. If that's the case to go in the season, you're obviously betting on yourself. You're betting that I'm going to be the guy who can make $20-25 million a year. I think he's got a really good agent. Christian Wilkins, his agent is David Mulligetta, who also represents Jalen Ramsey, who did the new deal with the Dolphins. He represents Javon Holland, David Long, who did a deal with them as well, among other people. But the reason I say that is because you look at the defensive tackle market. And I think that's important because agents and players are always looking to match themselves up with the market and best the market. And so you got Christian Wilkins, who one of his best friends is Dexter Lawrence, who just got paid, who is largely, he does get it to the quarterback a little bit more than Christian, but largely a run first player who got $20+ million. You look at a Quentin Williams, you look at a who else got paid this offseason? Jeffrey Simmons, Deron Payne, and Christian's like, I'm in that group. Like, I'm equal or not better than those people, and these people all got 20+ million. If Miami's number is not there yet on that and the guarantees, then Christian probably and his agent probably view this as, hey, we're going to take our chance with the market. The market is saying this is what defensive tackles are worth. For whatever reason, you don't view me in this group. Let's see who else views me in this group in 2024. And so that's when you bet on yourself. The Dolphins also have the franchise tag there, but his agent and him know, just like we as fans know, that the Dolphins are coming up tight on some money. And so the franchise tag sounds great in theory until you got $21 million, $22 million on your cap hits. And you also got a Tyreek cap hit. And you also got a Tua cap hit next year. And a Jalen Ramsey cap hit. And Xavier Howard.
The tag is hardcore. It's hardline money. It's not, you can't move it. You can't flex it. You can't break it into a signing bonus.
You can't split it 5 years apart on a franchise tag. And so that becomes, although that's usually a team move, the Christian Wilkins and his team can also say, okay, you think that you're going to just tag the franchise? Let's see y'all do it. Let's see what you make work money-wise, because I look at what you got going, and I don't think it's going to happen, because next summer, David Mulligella's going to come to you and say, we want an extension for Javon Holland. And you're going to be like, all right, we don't have any money. And then Jalen Waddle's going to come and say, I want an extension. We don't have any money. And and so you're not extending any of your players, and it starts to create a cycle. Then like I said,
it's going to happen.
Yep.
It's going to happen.
And then you'll have to have some painful decisions. This is when you see the Rams go about, and you have to get rid of some of your core players. And so you start to imagine, can you keep a Teron Armstead, Xavier Howard, Emmanuel Agba, some of these guys into 2024? Can you afford to keep both Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill into 2025, 2026? These are questions that these are uncomfortable questions, but these are questions that eventually come down the line when you start having, these money questions, these money issues.
Oh, they actually can draft now. It's funny to hear people even complain about Chris Grier. When you look at, he has the Tunsil and the San Francisco trade now become maybe two of the greatest trades in the NFL in the last decade.
Absolutely.
In the last decade, Chris Grier has two of the best, most lopsided trades. Actually in NFL history, but just recent history.
Yeah, Larry Tunsil's trade is the gift that keeps on giving. Like if you get the delineation from the Larry Tunsil trade, because if you remember, I think they're related, because the pick they ended up trading to San Fran was a Larry Tunsil pick. And so that doesn't even happen and unless you make the Larry Tunsil trade. And so I think everything is delineation from that. And then obviously they made the move with San Fran to go from 3 to 12 and then back up to 6 to get Waddle.
That's Waddle, Chubb, and Ramsey.
Yep.
The trade with San Fran, he made it Waddle, Chubb, and Ramsey. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Are you kidding me? And how do you even complain about this guy? And now you're going to have the problem that we used to see with the Dolphins, because I've been around for a while here. They barely could draft guys, and then the few that they would get, they would lose them. Well, now they're going to be like these other teams that are good teams that they draft well. So now you're going to lose guys, and now you're going to have the cycle of compensatory picks. So now you're going to have your years where you'll have an extra third, a fourth, a fifth, not just a 6 or 7. No. So a little bit more of the meat of the matter in the third and the fourth and the fifth. Why? Because you're going to lose some really good players now. I don't think people realize how good this guy is. I really don't. And by the way, let me ask you a question. Did 3 undrafted players make this team?
You said do or did?
Do. 3 undrafted make this team.
So here's the thing about roster cuts, right? I think there's a chance that you see.
I'm going Peely.
So does he make it over Deshaun Hand, though?
Yes.
Or are you keeping both of them?
Yes.
Because Fangio really likes Deshaun Hand.
Well, you might keep Deshaun. You might keep Deshaun Hand also, but I'm keeping Peely. I like the youth, and
some of this is judging which guys you think you can get through waivers and get on your practice squad, which guys you can't. There also will be some roster maneuvering because you'll have veterans that are cut just to get people on IR because you're going to have to move Jalen Ramsey to IR, and then they're signed back again the next day. You'll also see some players who may just be temporary holders, and then other guys get claimed. And so maybe Peely makes the first roster, but then he gets replaced by another guy. I think he's firmly on the bubble. He'll be an intriguing one.
I think he makes it. I'm keeping Chris Brooks as my back also. I'm letting go of Gaskin.
So you're keeping 5 running backs?
Yeah, I'm keeping 5 running backs.
That's a lot of running backs with the fullback.
Yeah, I know.
All right.
But I'm keeping him. And the experiment of getting Higgy with it and Tanner Connor has failed. So you're cutting both and hoping to sneak them onto the practice squad.
Cutting both Tanner Connor and your 6th-round pick, Higgins,
and I'm
right?
Tyler Croft, and I'm keeping Julian Hill.
Okay, so you're keeping Smythe, Saubert, and Hill.
Exactly.
Those are your 3. Okay.
My 3.
That's intriguing.
I just think Hill adds more. I just saw more receiving ability out of him.
Impressive. He's had an impressive camp. Yep. I would agree that he has looked better. Although I think the other kid has some potential. You take him as developmental Higgins, converted receiver. You just got to hope somebody else claims him.
This team is too deep to take a roster spot again on Tanner.
Are they deep though? Are they deep? I don't know.
At the offensive side, they are. They have too many people. He's not worth bumping anybody else on the offense at this point. He just doesn't do anything consistently.
Right.
Since he's been here, he can't stay healthy. He had injuries last year, and he had injuries now. And it's like, yo, bro, we can't assess you if you can't play. And then when you do play, you screw it up. I'm sorry. I see all the potential, but potential gets you fired, bro.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Julian Hill shows me that he can actually make some plays, and he actually blocks too. So I'm like, I'm not such a tweener with the other guy, Higgy and Tanner, that, okay, I know you guys can have the receiving ability, but I got to then teach you how to block. But Julian is kind of in the middle. He can block some and he can catch, and I kind of like that. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whereas, I don't know, man. I'm not getting rid of Saubert. That mother is bigger than what I thought, bro.
Yeah, that's a big dude. That's a big dude, man.
I'm like, okay, blocking, catching, I'm good with that. And I love Smythe.
Yep.
Smythe. He's good. He's such a perfect number 2. I get it. They don't have a 1 here, but whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of 2s and 3s in this offense, and maybe next year they prioritize it. But the thing about it is you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. There's really not a lot of touches left, especially for a team that wants to run the ball more. You want to run the ball a lot more. You still want a Tyreek Hill who wants 2,000 yards. You got Jalen Waddle who probably doesn't want to be too far behind him. That's about 75 to 80% of your touches. And so then you got the rest of the team, the rest of the tight ends, the rest of the 3rd and 4th receivers, all competing for the rest of the last, 20, 25%. And so, but yeah, I'm going to be intrigued to see what they do at tight end. Tanner Connor taking off PUP was interesting to me because if you wanted to keep him, you could have technically kept him on PUP. So that makes me think either 1 or 2 things: that either his roster spot is not secure, or the other one, they think that he's their best receiving tight end and that he's going to play a significant role on this team starting week 1.
Well,
and so we're going to see. I will say, like, the first day he got off PUP, he was taking reps with Tua and the people who are with Tua.
They like him. I know they like him, but I think it's a huge risk at this point for him to take a roster spot. I know he runs like the wind. I saw it a couple of times in practice last year. He can run. There's no doubt. One more thing before I let you go. The safety, unfortunate. I thought Elijah Campbell had it. I thought he had the edge. I thought he was going to start. Now what do? Deshaun Elliott, Vernon McKinley. Does Trill Williams get a little? And Brandon Jones, please hurry back.
Right.
What happens with that spot now?
Yeah, it's concerning. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It's a big concern to me because Elijah Campbell was a heavy contender to start at safety. Now, Mike McDaniel talks 3:30. Maybe he gives us some type of update, but he was on crutches leaving the stadium. doesn't look like a guy, unless magic happens, that's already going to be ready to back and start in week 1. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe it's just, the crutches were scared. But if you're going to have to miss some time with Elijah Campbell, you also have Brandon Jones, who hadn't played in the preseason all season. And so it would be unwise to think that he's going to be ready to be on the field and to get significant snaps week 1. And so that really, you've got Javon, obviously, you've got Deshaun Elliott, and then you've got Vern McKinley. And that's really your only safeties that you feel good about week 1, health-wise, being able to play. I think this team's going to be very active in the waiver wire, trying to get one or multiple safeties, because that group is still incomplete from a depth perspective, but also from a starter perspective. And so
does Indy have an extra safety too?
Right. Throw in a safety. So yeah, it's concerning. It's concerning because that safety spot is very important in Vic Fangio's defense. They play a lot of too high safety, which you need 2 safeties. You can't just have one safety. Like, you could get away with a lot of one safety last year because the Dolphins played a lot of one high with Javon Holland and had the other guy, Brandon Jones, in the box. And so it's a little
coverage skills. You have to have serious coverage skills in this. You can't be that one safety. You're just like a thumper. You're almost like an extra linebacker. That dude that's
the inside the box role. That's a lot of what Brandon Jones did last year, along with the blitzing, that made him really good, right? But now you have a defense that's built differently, and so maybe Verone McKinley gets a lot of reps there because his chemistry with Javon Holland. I don't know how ready he is for a starter role. You got Deshaun Elliott, who you brought in. He's at a decent camp. I don't think he's flashed a ton, but maybe you just need him not to get hurt. Not to hurt you, not to get beat on big plays. That's the key for your safeties. But that would be a position that I wouldn't be shocked to see waiver wire, not only waiver wire, but maybe a player for player trade. You say, hey, I'm a little deep in this spot. Maybe that's running back. Maybe that's I'm trying to think what else they'd be deep in, defensive line, or linebacker, outside linebacker. Maybe you trade a guy that's probably going to make your team, but you trade him for another guy who's going to make their team that you needed a position of need. And so maybe that's safety. Maybe you can trade for some team's older third safety that you could have start. That would be things I would look out for if I was Chris Grier, which I'm not.
No. I want his bank account. I don't want.
I would love that too. That would be nice.
Just want the bank account, not the responsibilities, not the heat that comes with it. No, because what the hell? You're doing a great job. It's the best team since the early 90s, and I still got idiots that want to fire him. I don't want that, bro. It's just that's just no fun. Follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe and catch his exceptional work there at NFL Network. We will catch up with you in a couple days, Cam. Thank you as always. Have a fantastic.
All right, you too. Sir. Yep.
This has been the KSDT CPA Pro Football Report with NFL insider Cameron Wolfe. KSDT is recognized by Forbes as one of the top tax accounting firms for 2022. KSDT CPA is a full-service firm that also excels in crypto. Visit them at ksdtcpa.com or call 305-670-3370.